So Arsenal have made a decision that could change everything for this season. I want to get people's thoughts on it because to me it's so confusing and I don't know how it's going to play out. We've also got the Arsenal versus Newcastle game tomorrow that I want to touch on towards the end of this video. Before we get into it though, do me one quick favour if you could please just hit like on this video. So before we get into the news that's confused me, I just want to ask everyone's score prediction for the game against Newcastle tomorrow. For the Man City versus Arsenal game, of course, no one could have guessed that scoreline. So before we get into the video, let me know your Arsenal versus Newcastle score prediction for tomorrow night. Look, Arsenal leading up into this transfer window, kind of the buzz around the team, the club, the media outlets was Arsenal were looking to bring in players. At the beginning of the season, Arsenal's squad was so bare compared to the season before. And the season before, Arsenal got so lucky with injuries. So they kind of looked at it and said, right, if we can have another season with not that many injuries, we can strip the squad back and hopefully next summer bolster that squad. So they stripped the squad away. We've been plagued with injuries this season. So the news going into this January transfer window, even that Mikel Arteta was putting out, the kind of response Mikel Arteta was given to questions was like, the club's working hard. If there's things we can do, we will 100% do it. We haven't signed anyone in January. That could be a massive mistake. The Arsenal squad is so bare, especially in those forward areas. And it seemed like a guarantee 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. It would have been bang on for Arsenal to sign a player. Everyone can see we need it. We're so short. And then you get Bukayo Saka injured. After the Martin Odegaard injury. After the season seems to be falling apart. Now, Arsenal seem to be in a good space at the minute because they've just had that 5-1 win against Manchester City. But the fact Arsenal haven't signed a player could be massive in this season's title race and Champions League. And I just wanted to get people's thoughts on it. Are you as frustrated as a lot of the other Arsenal fans out there? Do you think this impacts Arsenal's season? Because for me, honestly, I think it does. I would have loved if Arsenal could bring in a forward player. Because if you look at that Arsenal team, yeah, in the summer, they're going to have to maybe find a new right back or a young right back. Maybe because it seems like that defence has had to be kind of chopped and changed this season. We've seen Partey being deployed at right back more times than I would have hoped at the beginning of the season. He's not a natural right back. He's our best midfielder at the minute. So you need to play him in midfield. But because of the injuries, Arsenal have had to play him at right back. So you could say Arsenal need to sign a defender in the summer transfer window. Midfield, it looks like we're going to bring in Zubimendi, and that leaves you with a couple of questions about Arsenal's midfield. What's going to happen with Thomas Partey? Will we offer him a new contract? Because the way he's playing at the minute, you have to give him a new deal. And then that leaves the kind of question with Thomas Partey. Does he want to sign a new deal? Because he's 31 years old. What are Arsenal going to offer him? If we're being an injury-prone player, now we've got away with it this season. Last season he was injury-prone, but the season before he wasn't. So will Arsenal look at that and say, right, we can offer you a 1 or 2 year deal? Partey might take that, but he might look at it and say, well, I'm being offered 2 or 3 years to go and play in Europe, and I'm being offered 5 years to go play in Saudi Arabia. So we might not have Thomas Partey next season, and I think if he keeps playing like he is, like he's clearly one of the best midfielders in the world. So if we lose Thomas Partey in the summer, we're going to have to bring in Zubimendi and another midfielder. And then you've got the attack, which obviously needs so much work doing to it. We've got Bukayo Saka. We've now got Ethan Nwaneri, which again is another question. What happens with Ethan Nwaneri? Does Arteta see him as a winger? Which, in my opinion, that's where we've seen his best performances. But growing up, he's always been a central midfielder. He's been more of a number 8, maybe a more of attacking midfielder. So can Mikel Arteta integrate him into that position? We've seen it with the Arsenal first team this season. And if I'm being honest, I think I've only seen it 2 or 3 times. He hasn't played as well in the middle of the park. He maybe gets lost in games, but that's just an age thing. Experience will come. He will fill out a bit more. He will grow into that position. So if that's his position, we need to give him time to develop there. But the way he's playing as a winger, I like what I'm seeing. Now, it might not be natural to him, but Mikel Arteta might look at it and say, after Bukayo Saka, already you're our second best winger. So he might try and transform him into that more of an attacking player, more of a winger. Maybe Mikel Arteta would look at it and say that if I can transform him more into a winger, then maybe I only have to bring in a striker in the summer transfer window, because we're not going to be able to bring in reinforcements in every single position. I would love it to happen. You would love it to happen. But we know what we're going to get spun. The same old FFP won't allow us to bring in a defender, midfielder and a couple of forward players. You're not going to solve every single problem in one window. And Arsenal have got some problems to solve. That's why they should have dipped into this January transfer market. That's why so many of us were predicting Arsenal would dip into this transfer market. Because it's obvious we need these players. Like, the defence has been strengthened over the past few years. And compared to what it was when Mikel Arteta took over, it has been transformed. It's so much stronger. We do have one of the best defences in the league. So maybe that's a position that you can leave alone for now, because we've more than strengthened it since Mikel Arteta's been in charge. We've heard the news about Zubimendi coming in the summer. So, okay, there's probably, 50, 60 million that you're going to have to outlay straight away. But then how much can you spend on a striker? We know what the going rate is for a striker. If you want someone like Isak, the numbers being thrown around are about 130 million. So can Arsenal spend over 200 million in the summer transfer window on Zubimendi and Isak? That would probably be all of your budget gone. And that's a big budget to have, 200 million. We've seen Arsenal spend that amount in the past couple of seasons. So maybe they will again do that in the summer. But look, in my opinion, we need more than two players. We need more than a central midfielder and an attacker, especially if we lose Thomas Partey. You're going to have to buy another midfielder. What's that, another 40 million? There's 240 million. Many of us would like another forward player as well, maybe a winger. We're not going to spend 300 million. So that's why I'm looking at this opportunity in the January transfer window and saying it's a massive chance missed. I think this does affect our season. I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on it, so let me know in the comment section. I want to touch on the Arsenal versus Newcastle game. Like I said, let me know your score predictions down below. It's a must-win game. Arsenal are coming into this game probably on the back of what is the best scenario possible. We've just smashed Man City 5-1. The morale in the camp you would imagine to be high. Hopefully we've gained some momentum. We go into this game needing to overturn a 2-0 deficit. And I just hope, I'm predicting we will do that. Look, I'll tell you my score prediction now. I'm going for a 4-1 win to Arsenal. But there are some questions surrounding the team. What do you do? Look, in a competitive game, I'm trying to think, but I can't remember Mikel Arteta starting Lewis Skelly and Nwaneri in the same game. And I think this is the perfect game to do that. Lewis Skelly is clearly our best left back. And it's hard to argue that Nwaneri doesn't deserve his chance as well, because the last few times we've seen him, he's scored an absolute banger every time. And it's not just the goals that impress me with Ethan Nwaneri. It's the impact he has. Like, the defenders must hate playing against him. He always seems like he's going to do something, and he does do something, and he gets the better of his man, and he cuts inside, and he dummies, and he gets away from the player. He seems like, if someone's going to make it happen, Ethan Nwaneri, when you're watching him, it looks like it's so exciting watching him play. So I think you do play him against Newcastle. I would play the two youngsters. And that would lead you into the team selection. Let me know yours in the comment section, because for me, it's very easy. David Raya, Urian Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Lewis Skelly, Partey, Rice, Odegaard, Nwaneri, Martinelli or Trossard. That's probably a position that you can look at and have some discussion. For me, I probably go Martinelli, but Trossard done quite well in the last game, especially for the first goal. So Martinelli or Trossard and Havertz. I basically play an unchanged team from the game against Man City, but I throw in Ethan Nwaneri because I think he deserves his chance to show what he can do in a massive game. And I think with a team like that, Arsenal can overturn the deficit. I remember Arsenal playing PSG and we needed 3 or 4 goals years ago, and Arsene Wenger went all-out attack. Without going all-out attack in this game, I think we can field a team that can go out there and put the pressure on early. And that's exactly what Arsenal will need to do in this game. We have to start fast. Newcastle are going to be sitting so compact. They don't even have to score. If they keep it to a 1-0 loss, they're still going through to the next round. So Newcastle have a massive cushion. They're going to be under no pressure to score a goal. Now, the players that they're going to have on their team would suggest they're still going to want to score a goal. If they can score early to make it 1-0, then they're basically through. That's the way that they would see it. You're going to have players like Isak on the pitch probably. So he's going to be looking to not go on the pitch and just defend for 90 minutes. So they will at times play forward, which will leave gaps for Arsenal to exploit. And that's why I think that team would be perfect. We've seen how strong that midfield is in the last game against Man City. And if we're being honest, you can't compare Newcastle's midfield to Man City's. Newcastle's midfield is way stronger than Man City's in terms of quality, but in terms of physicality as well. They got Big Joe Linton in there. They got Bruno Guimaraes. They got Tonali in there. They've got the perfect balance in midfield. And the way that Arsenal's midfield played in the last game, this is probably the two best midfields in the league competing against each other. That's the way I see it. I think Newcastle have a very good and at times underrated midfield. The balance they have is very, very good. We've seen it over the past season or so. Arsenal seem to struggle in games against Newcastle, and I think it is because of that midfield. I don't want to see Mikel Arteta play Mikel Merino in this game because he's slightly more physical. That's my fear, that Mikel Arteta looks at it and says, they're so physical, I need another physical body in there, so I'm going to throw Mikel Merino into the mix. I think Partey, Rice and Odegaard has the tenacity, has the strength and has the quality as well, with Martin Odegaard operating in those areas. So that's the midfield I would go for, but let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much to everyone for watching and listening. Before you go, do me a quick favor, just hit like and subscribe, and I'll speak to you all in tomorrow's video. Gooners, have a good day.